All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMAUnhinged. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Oscar Silva. How's it going?
It's going pretty damn excellent over here in Chicago. We do not have a UFC fight card to break down this Saturday, but there was about 13 fights this past Saturday that I would really like to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic fights that we had last weekend. Not too much to talk about this weekend. I do believe we have Derek Chisora versus Joseph Parker. Not Derek Chisora, sorry. Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker this weekend, if you're a UK boxing fan this weekend. So, yeah, let's talk about the fights that happened last weekend. Corey Sandhagen versus Song Yudong was in the main event. And oh my goodness, did they not disappoint. A fourth round finish for Corey Sandhagen due to doctor stoppage because of that nasty cut across the Song Yudong eyebrow.
Yeah, so as I predicted, Song Yudong, he is the harder hitter, and he's more likely to go for the knockout. So that's what, in my opinion, won him rounds 1 and 2. In round 1, he definitely landed the more impactful shots, if you ask me, even though Sandhagen outlanded him. And in round 2, that's a round that a lot of people I saw give to Sandhagen, but they forgot that Sandhagen got stunned there at the beginning of the round, and then he proceeded to land that elbow. But for me, after that cut, Song Yudong was a half-blind man, and it just disheartened him a little bit. And the pace that Sandhagen was fighting at with the constant takedowns, that for me definitely secured the rounds for Sandhagen. And I just thought that Song Yudong's performance was damaged by the cut, and it was a good thing that they stopped it, because it wasn't like he was doing very well in the fight. So yeah, you could have even stopped the fight a little earlier, but very bad positioning for the cut, and Sandhagen looked just as good as ever, if you ask me. And I still stand by my statement that he's the third best bantamweight in the UFC.
Yeah, fantastic fight from Corey Sandhagen, getting it done in spectacular fashion. In the main event, shooting himself back into that win column, obviously bouncing back after a loss against Aljamain Sterling. No, sorry, Peter Yan and TJ Dillashaw, and now he's back inside the win column against Song Yudong. A very game Song Yudong, and as you talked about, maybe if the cut wasn't there, if it didn't happen, it could have been a whole different mentality for Song Yudong. It kind of felt like when that cut opened up, he was kind of trying to protect it so it don't open up a little bit more.
Yeah, also just you saw him wiping at the blood constantly. Yeah, it's just in a very bad spot, dripping right into his eye. And Sandhagen is so good at using those knees and elbows. I feel like more fighters should use them, because they're not covered up like your fists. So they're exposed weapons, and Sandhagen uses them better than pretty much anybody else in the UFC.
Yeah, he's actually lethal with his elbows, his knees. We saw it a few times in this fight against Song Yudong. Song Yudong, what is crazy about Song Yudong, he's still only 24 years of age, so there's still a lot of room to grow, and this was a big test for him, but there will be another day for Song Yudong, and he's going to get there straight back to the top.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll see him fight for UFC title in the next 3 years, I would say.
Absolutely, he's got a lot of way to go. Yeah, 24 years old, as I mentioned, and a fantastic fight. He put on a show. Both men put on a show. But Corey Sandhagen getting his hand raised in the fourth round, doctor stoppage. A fantastic fight, and it was a great main event. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and the whole card as a whole was really, really good. It really surprised me.
Yeah, I liked the pacing of the main card. Prelims had a little too many decisions for my liking, but that main card really delivered.
Absolutely. If we go over to the co-main event, a fantastic fight that we had, and we talked about it before we went on air. Jesus Christ. You talked about RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez being a phenomenal fighter, and you described him to being as a modern-day Jacare Souza.
Yeah, the guy's got a really good jiu-jitsu base, but he loves to standing bang, and I think he's got more power than Jacare did in those fists. And the heart this guy shows is crazy. There was just one occasion where he got laid out and didn't get to show his heart, but in some of these fights, he gets put on wobbly legs, and he does not quit on himself, and he goes back and he hurts his opponent. So I say he doesn't use jiu-jitsu, but the reason he got cut he went for a takedown, and Cheating Jokuwani hit him with the cleanest knee you'll see in a bit, and it it cut him right open, right between the eyebrows, and it was a really bad and deep cut, so bad you look at Dana White's story on Instagram, you see that there was a little vein right there, or an artery exposed, and I don't know if people have seen this before, but in pro wrestling, people accidentally cut themselves too deep, and when you cut an artery, holy crap, it looks like a faucet, like a
Yeah, it was.
faucet coming out of your head.
Yeah, it could have been a few punches away from absolutely danger for Gregory Rodriguez. It was tough to watch, and obviously he got the win. He tough battle for it. And I've got to say, the doctor this night, he must have had something in there. He must have loved fighting because he let everything go until that main event.
Yeah, that was a truly awesome fight, deservedly getting the Fight of the Night honors. And you look at that, you look at how he came back from that. He comes back and he knocks down Chin Jikwani, and then he stuns him again. Chidi got the soul beat out of him in this fight. The momentum was on RoboCop's side at the end of round one. It was just concerning because I thought they might have stopped it, but they did not. And what happened was RoboCop gets a takedown, which was smart on his part because Chidi was gassed out completely. And he gets in top position, and Chidi's just way too tired to defend himself. The ref waves it off. Absolutely awesome comeback. I love watching this guy fight. I now am labeling him the most exciting middleweight in the UFC.
Yeah, and you labeled him the modern-day Jacare Souza, and I think it's absolutely a fantastic comparison. And obviously, got the win done, and obviously that cut, it really could have stopped a halt and momentum from Gregory Rodriguez, but he never looked back, and he kept on coming forward, and he hunted for that finish, and almost got it. Did get the finish. Sorry, I'm completely baffled, completely lost. And he did get the finish against Chichirin Junkwani. A fantastic fight. RoboCop improves once again. A fantastic one to get over his record against Chichirin Junkwani, who I thought maybe could go in there and get a round one knockout with what we've seen of him recently inside the UFC. 2 first-round knockouts, and that's where I thought it was going to go with Chichirin Junkwani, but RoboCop stopped a halt to that, and he proved his worth. Moving on to the next fight, we had Andre Fili versus Bill Algeo. Fantastic one in featherweight. I thought Bill Algeo heading into this one would have the better edge, but it just seemed Andre Fili had the better wrestling, and obviously when it came to striking, Bill Algeo was more cleaner, more active, but the judges favored Andre Fili.
Yeah, so Fili rocks Algeo. Round one, that definitely secured him that round. Round two, very close round, but I saw the better and cleaner work from Fili as I predicted. In round three, you have Fili using his wrestling and Algeo just doing a little hammer fist from the back, not really doing much. And I scored this 30-27 for Fili. My breakdown of this fight was very correct. I just thought you have a better striker and a better grappler, more established guy. Algeo would have won this fight if Fili gassed after round one, Algeo's pass opponents, but that's just not how Fili rolls. And this is a good bounce back spot for him.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic win for Andre Fili to get under his belt after 2 tough losses. Bryce Mitchell, and then in the last one getting finished. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But a fantastic fight to get back in. There you go, Joe Anderson Brito. A fantastic fight to get back in the win column against a tough customer against Bill Algeo. He kept him walking forward and taking all the best shots, and obviously the rest of them as well. The control time you see there, 4 minutes and 18 seconds for Andre Fili. So he showed his worth. He showed that he still got some life in the old dog. Fighting out of T Alpha Male. So yeah, he's been in the UFC for a very long time. It's good to see him get back inside the win column. Fantastic for Andre Fili, and we'll see what happens next for him. There's got some good fights out there in the featherweight division, some good matchups they could do for exciting ones. He's always an exciting fight, so it'll be a good one whatever happens. Moving on to one of the stars of the weekend, Joe Pifer getting a main card spot against Alan Mondovski. And I said it last week. I think I said Alan Mondovski is not UFC caliber. Joe Pifer is definitely UFC caliber, and he proved it on this night. He knocks out Alan Mondovski in round one. the lights were out before he even got down there, and it was crazy. We could see in the eyes of Alan Mondovski, he was not all there. Joe Pifer has got all the makings of becoming a star inside the UFC.
Yeah, what a story this guy's had. He was about to be homeless heading into the Contender Series, and now he's basically got his life back in place somewhat, getting this $50,000 bonus. And this is exactly what we expected him to do to a guy like Mondovski, who's got a 4-fight skid. Yeah, he basically took out the trash here, and now it's up to bigger things for Joe Pifer.
Absolutely, a fantastic story. As you talked about, Joe Pifer appeared on the MMA show yesterday, I do believe, as well.
Oh wow!
If I'm correct in saying. If I'm correct, anyway, I know MMA yesterday, or was it yesterday?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously it's on right now. So, yeah, Joe Pifer's got a fantastic story. Came off a Contender Series this season, if I'm correct, and then obviously he's got a fight.
Correct. Yeah, he's already capitalized off this Contender Series season, and I think we'll see him back in there before the end of the year.
Absolutely, a fantastic story, as we talked about, and obviously an even better fighter. He produced it, and I think this is probably the end of Alan Mondovski inside the UFC. 4 back-to-back losses. I just don't see it getting...
Been cut. He's already been
there
cut.
We go. He's already been cut. I just didn't see it getting any better for Alan Mondovski. Even if he won this fight, that's still 1-3 inside the UFC, and I still think the UFC won't take that gamble. But anyway, moving over to a heavyweight fight. Tanner Boser versus Rodrigo Nascimento. This one was a proper heavyweight fight.
Yeah, Tanner Boser he's too small for a heavyweight. And we didn't really see it before because he was fighting these strikers for the most part. Rodrigo Nascimento is a big boy, and he was able to muscle around Tanner Boser and just lay on top of him for large parts of this fight. Tanner Boser, of course, had that speed advantage on the feet, but it didn't matter because he got taken down way too easily in this fight. And this, to me, should be a sign to Tanner Boser to take the Harry Hunsucker route, go down to 205, and see what he can do down there, because I actually think he can beat some of those guys.
Yeah, and obviously he's got the better talent, and no disrespect to Harry Hunsucker, I just feel like he's got more skills to win in Tanner Boser. He's very quick, and the speed was very, very... you could see there was obviously a big speed advantage because obviously Tanner Boser, the leaner, the more smaller man in there in heavyweight. Rodrigo Nascimento, obviously you talked about the heaviness, how powerful he was, the strength. It just seemed a little bit too much for Tanner Boser. So maybe a move down to light heavyweight would be a very, very good idea. So maybe Oscar Silva is pitching that idea to him. So let's see what happens there. Moving over to the main card opener, we had Anthony Fluffy Hernandez getting another submission finish to his record. And again, this time he gets a very, very tough, very, very game Marc-Andre Barrera. A fantastic win. Was you impressed with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez?
I sure was. I loved this fight beginning to end. So Anthony Hernandez has a style that reminds me of Cain Velasquez. Some people have pointed out before. Reminds me of just this constant takedown style, wearing guys out. And it's not like he wants to finish them right away. He wants to wait for them for their body just to quit on them, and that's what he was doing in this fight. His ability to get these takedowns easily was really bad for Marc-Andre's game plan, because guy clearly wanted to stand and bang with him. But Fluffy Hernandez, holy crap, that ground and pound he inflicted onto Marc-Andre, and then on the feet, I thought Marc-Andre Barrera would do better for himself, but no. On the feet, he got cut up bad with some elbows. And then once we get to the third round, that's where the madness ensued. He dropped Marc-Andre Barrera right on his head. That could have knocked out a lot of guys. And then he proceeds to put him in a deep arm triangle and choke him to sleep. This was about as good as you get for a 3-round performance.
Yeah, that when he dropped him on the head, that was when they uploaded the pictures and the videos. I did have a chuckle on it, but obviously Marc-Andre Barrera is an absolute savage, carrying after that as well. We've seen that in wrestling. I know that's fake, but we've seen people get dropped on their head, and obviously their neck being obviously not the same. So I know this is MMA is totally different, but we've seen it in the past of people getting dropped on the head and breaking their neck, and it seems like Marc-Andre Barrett is fine, but what a savage to be able to come through that. And obviously, in the third round, he did get submitted. But Andre Hernandez is a different breed on the ground. He showed it once again. He had that big win against Rafael Vieira, and obviously now against Marc-Andre Barrett. So things are looking up for Anthony Hernandez. And as we move over to the prelims, my God, the prelims were stacked. And we saw how good they were in the prelim main event. And last week when we were speaking, we were so confident Patsabatini. We thought he was going to walk through Damon Jackson. We thought this, we thought that. We thought Patsabatini was going to do everything. But in 20 seconds, we got told that MMA is a very, very weird game and anything can happen.
Yeah, so I did give credit to Damon Jackson saying he had the better striking, but I just thought we were going to see a ton of grappling here. Right away, you see Patsabatini go for that takedown, but he had a front kick waiting for him right down the middle, and he never recovered from it. So he got wobbled bad, and then he just got pushed to the ground by Damon, and from there he gets put in the crucifix, hit with a ton of ground pound. Then he gets mounted, and he's dazed and confused still. And once Damon Jackson's throwing the ground and pound, I think I see him tap, and then it ends via verbal tap. So yeah, he wanted nothing to do with Damon Jackson after that front kick. And Damon Jackson, he's coming off the loss of his brother. That fight, I had no idea, man. And that really lights a fire under some people, and it worked out for Damon Jackson there. That was a really special moment for Damon.
Yeah, absolutely. Return back to the UFC and is having all this success right now. Obviously, disregard that sole loss to Ilia Topuria since he's returned, but now was it 4 back-to-back wins, and obviously against Patsabatini, it's arguably his best win inside MMA and obviously inside the UFC.
Yeah, I need to see this guy fight people on the cusp of the top 15 or a ranked opponent, man. Like he's earned it. Sabatini himself was on a 3-fight win streak, I think. So I really would like to see him fight maybe Hakeem Dawodu, maybe Alex Caceres, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. A phenomenal fight from Damon Jackson, getting his hand raised against a fantastic prospect. The momentum and the confidence. And obviously after that as well, I want to say condolences to him and his family. Obviously announced that his, I do believe his stepbrother or brother died that week of the fight.
Yeah, very sad. But what was sad in a different way was sitting down to watch this fight coming up right here.
Trevor Giles taking on Koski, and yeah, as you talked about, very sad and not a pleasing watch. It went all 3 rounds. Trevor Giles gets a nod, but there's not really too much to talk about other than inactivity.
Straight up timidity. I think that Kosi side learned their lesson last time out because he gassed real bad after round 1. So his game plan was let's not do anything and we'll not gas. And what was it? Giles, he got knocked out in round 1 his last fight, so he was scared of getting knocked out himself. So what you had was 2 guys scared to get hit, scared to gas out, and it took Kosi till round 3 to use his best skill as wrestling. So yeah, it's just a really bad performance by both men. Kosi barely edged it out. Giles barely edged it out. Nothing to really talk about.
Yeah, not too much to talk about. Trevor Giles returning back to the win column after 2 back-to-back losses and now gets 1 back in the win column and is back on track to get to the top of the division. Moving over to Lumalook Bumi versus Gomes. And Lumalook Bumi, this was a weird fight. There was a few clips of her after a takedown. She kind of walks away, turns her back, and she gets punished for it. But this one, a lot of scrambles, a lot of back and forth. Lumalook Bumi used a lot of Muay Thai, a lot of judo throws, trips inside the clinch. She did really well in the scrambles, but this was a very, very close fight.
This fight was absolutely madness all across the board. So both women are Muay Thai strikers at heart. But we saw them grapple a ton. You see in round 1, Loma winning on the feet, gets a takedown. starts landing a ton of elbows. It almost looks like she's on her way getting a finish. But then she gets reversed and loses a position in that round. Round two, that was a wild round because we had Gomes land a spinning elbow, and then I believe she got a takedown, and then she got reversed. Just tons of reversals on the ground between these two. I was really impressed by the jiu-jitsu of Gomes here because I really hadn't seen much of her grappling heading into this. And honestly, if she had not made some of those mistakes, she really could have gotten enough control time to win the decision here. But for Loma Lookboonmee, has not fought in a year since Lupe Godinez fight, so it was nice to see her get a win as the UFC sole fighter from Thailand. But this fight was awesome all the way through. Lots of blood. Nobody talked about the cuts in this fight because the main event and co-main event had bad cuts, but this one had some fairly bad cuts.
Exactly. Loma Lookboonmee getting the job done, barely edging it. All three rounds I feel like were competitive, and I'm seeing some really good scrambles. Gomez was hunting for that takedown and never got one. Loma Lookboonmee just seemed to get them trips inside and use the wizards as well to get them to finish them. A fantastic fight for Loma Lookboonmee, returning back to the win column as well. Let's see what she can do from here. Another one that surprised me this night was Trey Ogden versus Daniel Zhuba. 12-0 Mexican headed to inside the UFC. There was a lot of talk about him. You could see the tweets popping up on the UFC broadcast. There was a lot of talk about him from really, really good guys, but it just seemed maybe the UFC jitters got to him a little bit.
This guy did not show up at all. I told everybody to bet on this guy. I said it was like free money. I said he was better everywhere. And I might be still right, but he was very timid in the fight. It looked like he was in a sparring match. Like he didn't care to score points. It was like, it didn't look like he was all that interested in that fight. And Trey Ogden was just happy to start racking up points with leg kicks. I will credit Ogden here. He looked much better than he did in the Levitt fight. Much more mobile, in better shape. But to me, honest, I just think Zellhuber just did not show up on this night. A lot of people made comparisons to Talia Santos' debut against who was it? Mara Romero Barrera. She loses a split to her, but she goes to a split with Valentina, kind of lets you know. Sometimes fighters just have bad nights and lose to fighters that they probably shouldn't lose to. Daniel Zellhuber, I honestly think he's better than this.
Absolutely agree. There was a lot of talk about him before the fight, and obviously did not live up to. I think the UFC debut definitely got to him a little bit. He'll be back. Obviously, he showed glimpses of what he can do. So hopefully, in the next fight, he really lives up to obviously his potential, and we'll see what he's really made of. Moving over to the history maker, Gillian Robertson, capping off a fantastic performance against Miria Agapova, getting another submission win in the women's flyweight division. She's outside the rankings, but she's the history maker in that division.
Yeah, Gillian Robertson always staying active, exposing the jiu-jitsu discrepancies with her opponents here. She already trained with Maria Agapova, and when she said it was the ideal matchup for her during the fight week, I was like, oh, she totally schooled her in the gym. And it's not like Agapova's gotten all that better since. Like, she got schooled on the ground by who was it? Marina Moroz, who's just not on Robertson's level in terms of jiu-jitsu. So you have got when I knew, as soon as Robertson got it to the ground, I knew it was just going to be over. But man, as long as on the feet, we saw Agapova punish Robertson. Those failed takedown attempts, those were spots where Robertson took a lot of damage.
Absolutely agree. It's a fantastic fight for Gillian Robertson, getting the job done as well, getting another submission as well in her record, and she keeps setting them. She's an absolute phenom when it comes to submitting her opponents, and obviously in the fight inside the women's flyweight, no one's got more submissions than her. No one's got more fights in that flyweight division. So she keeps on setting history and obviously getting them records up. The first fight of the evening was an interesting one. Nicholas Mota, returning back to winning ways after beating Cameron Venkamp, sorry, beating Cameron Venkamp in round number 1. He got the knockout, and this one surprised me a little bit. Cameron Venkamp, I wasn't impressed. It seemed early on, well, it was evidently clear early on that he doesn't really hold his hands next to his chin, and the chin is way too high up.
Yeah, he's got the classic tall man defense. I thought he would be able to hit Mota first, but Mota shows off some power here and scores a knockdown and finishes off Van Camp. I also think that weight cut down 155 has got to be bad for him. He looked a decent size for 170. So Mota gets himself the first win. He's been grinding for like a decade now. He's good friends with a ton of the Brazilian legends because he's trained all over the spot. So it's nice to see him do well in the UFC here. But yeah, I would say consider him for Paddy Pimblett's next opponent.
Absolutely. Obviously, Paddy Pimblett is out at the moment. Obviously, having a little downtime to himself. Back in the gym at the moment, I think, though. So now we could probably work towards his next fight. Maybe he wants to get one in December. Then obviously that big card in England. But yeah, the event was overall really good. It started off well.
We had some talk about Javid Basharat.
Yeah, exactly. I just realized Javid, the Basharat brothers, going 2-0 that week. Javid Basharat is a problem when it comes to striking.
Yeah, so I really was confident Javid Basharat because he's a solid grappler himself, and people picking on Gravely were saying he was going to out-wrestle Basharat, but the thing with Gravely, he slows down as the fight goes. He's not super durable, and he kind of showed it off here. He was getting wobbled a ton in this fight, and he was just struggling to get those takedowns here. He shot almost 20 shots and just did not get many of them. And if he did get him, didn't get much control time. So Basharat kind of schooled him here and let him know he's definitely going to be one of those guys in the top 15 in the next couple of years.
Absolutely agree. The Basharat brothers going 2-0 that week is a fantastic week for them. Obviously, one getting inside the UFC and now one's inside the UFC. So it's exciting for them, both from Afghanistan, refugeed over to England, and now fighting out of off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. Do you remember? They train in the US in Vegas.
Was it Extreme Couture?
Yep.
There we go. They fighting out Extreme Couture. But yeah, the event overall was fantastic. We had a lot of finishes and a lot of moments to talk about, especially in the main event, the co-main event, and on the main card as well. But yeah, that was UFC on last weekend. As we talked about, this is going to be a very, very short episode because we haven't got no UFC to talk about this weekend, unfortunately. But we can talk about what happened last night quickly, and obviously what we're going to happen next week. And we do have Bellator this week as well. So let's talk about what happened last night. A 17-year-old has just got a UFC contract.
Yeah. I never thought I would hear that sentence. It wasn't a developmental contract. But yeah, I said we talk about that, even though it was like the co-main event of the evening. So Raul Rose Jr. has been training since he was 4 years old. And now he's 17. He's got a record of 5-6-0. And he went out there and fought like a 25-year-old. And he showed that he was a much better grappler than him. He got put in many bad positions. In fact, he got put in a lot of scrambles that would tire people out usually. But he stayed calm and composed. Like this guy fought like a vet out there. He wasn't fighting like a young and dumb kid. He's got experience in the fight game, and he trains out of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Vegas. I think this kid's a problem. 17 years old. And he's, in my opinion, he already looks better than who was it? Chase Hooper did when he was 18. I think his striking is better than Chase Hooper's was back then. So I think he has a lot to offer. And if you would have, honestly, if you look at him, he doesn't even look all that young. Like he's got those battle scars on him. He's a little weathered. Honestly, I really think that the UFC made the right move here. Because I just think he's UFC ready. I think he could beat some of these bantamweights with grappling deficiencies. Don't get me wrong. Do not put him in there with a Javid Basharat. He'll get his face kicked in. But if you want him to go the Chase Hooper route and fight some of these lower level guys, I think he can tap a lot of them.
Absolutely. 5 contracts awarded last night. As you can see, all winners. I want to say a special shout out to Robert Trevero, who fought on the first fight. Didn't go his way, but he's a fantastic prospect fighting at Titan FC. But he'll come back. Venezuelan. He'll come back. And it was a fantastic night, all night round. 5 contracts, as I mentioned. Fiallo got one. Aliyev got one. And Austin Lane, another chance inside the Contender Series, and he got his chance, and he got his victory, and he got his contract inside the UFC. So congrats to him. Rosas Jr., as we talked about, the 17-year-old, and Ferreira. He looked like an absolute machine in that main event.
Yeah, I really like that episode. Everybody got contract for a reason. I'll let you know it's a great episode.
Absolutely agree. And then we've got Bellator this weekend. Henderson versus Peter Queally in Dublin, Ireland. So we'll quickly touch up about that. Not too much. The cards stacked a little bit. Benson Henderson, Peter Queally, Yoel Romero, Melvin Manhoof, Liam McCourt returning, Mads Burnell versus Pedro Carvalho. Oh my! The card is stacked with talent.
Yeah, I love this card. Honestly, it's more stacked than
I
remember it being like a month ago. So, but I'm all about that co-main event. I love Yoel Romero, one of my favorite fighters. Shame he left the UFC, but I think he can knock out a lot of this competition in Bellator.
Absolutely agree. This is going to be an absolutely phenomenal fight. This is the sort of fights that Japan used to put on, but we got a modern day one between Yoel Romero versus Melvin Manhoof. Obviously, Melvin Manhoof has been around for ages, been around the block, fought everywhere, Japan, America, everywhere, and now he's fighting in Dublin in Bellator, and he's fighting one of the beasts of MMA, one of the craziest physiques, one of the craziest athletes we've ever seen inside MMA, Yoel Romero. Fantastic card all around to talk about. As you can see, we've got Brett Johns in the prelims as well. Prelims is crazy. And then we've got Kane Musa. We've got really, really, really good card. And obviously, the Benson Henderson versus Peter Queally. Fantastic fight. My quick predictions for the main event, I'm going to go for Benson Henderson. I'm going to go for Yoel Romero and Liam McCourt, Mads Barnell, and Clark.
Yeah, so I like Benson Henderson to win by decision. He looked so damn good in his last fight, fighting a Russian prospect out of Habib's camp. He's supposed to get mauled by this guy. Thought he looked awesome, and he looked rejuvenated in that fight, and that leads me to believe he can beat Mads Burnell. He's all around a great fighter, but I really like the all around skill set for Henderson at lightweight. Like when he's at welterweight, he can't really hang, but I still think he's amongst the top, I would say 25 lightweights in the world right now. In that co-main event, Yoel Romero, you know his style. He doesn't throw a lot, but whatever he throws, it has a lot of meaning. He's going to dent around Melvin Manhoof round 1, land a couple body shots. He's going to look to explode in small pockets. But come round 2, he's going to land a big one, and Manhoof is going to go down. And I think that'll be a KO for Yoel Romero.
Absolutely. Fantastic co-main event. I'm really looking forward to it. One that we really dreamed of, and see what happens. Mel Manhoof, a kickboxer, been around for years. But yeah, that is Bellator this weekend. That is the only fights, MMA fights that we have this weekend that are very good. We have got, I was talking about Joe Joyce versus Joseph Parker this weekend if it's boxing. My quick predictions is Joseph Parker by decision. That one's going to be a really, really good fight if you tune in for that one. But then we have got the Contender Series next week that we could quickly talk about. And we've obviously got Bo Nickel performing.
Yeah, Bo Nickel, it's basically already... These Bo Nickel fights are like predetermined almost. Like it's a given he's going to win this one. His wrestling is just too far ahead of these regional guys. And even if he gets hit a ton in the face, he's going to get a ton of control time. I say he gets a second round TKO in this spot. You also got who is it?
Sam Patterson.
Yeah, Sam Patterson in this fight. Sam Patterson, another one of these UK prospects that I'm excited about. I think he'll find himself getting a third round TKO. You see a lot of these third round TKOs happen in Contender Series because both guys realize we got to throw down or we might miss out on a contract here. I think that's what we're going to get in that fight. Two guys just throwing down the hammers. And that's going to be a good one.
Absolutely agree. Sam Patson has talked about his opponent, Vinicius Sensi. All finishes for his wins, and his only loss has also came via finish. So Sam Patson loves to finish 4 by TKO, 4 by submission. This one is going to be an absolute barber to watch. And obviously, Bo Nickel, he talked about he's inside the UFC, but he's not inside the UFC, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Dana White already wants to put him in the video game, for goodness sake.
Absolutely agree. It's a fantastic co-main event, main event. I'm also looking forward to the rest of the fights, but those are the two that I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, that is all the fights that we have this weekend. A very, very short episode from me and Oscar. That's pretty much that we all have here for the March and Silva MMA show. I hope you enjoyed it. A very short one for you all, so you can all now go watch the MMA Hour.
All right, make sure to enjoy your week off from the fights. Maybe watch some old fights. Maybe do something else with your free time. But after that, we have ourselves UFC Vegas 61, I believe it is, and it is headlined by Yan Xiaonan and Mackenzie Dern. And I love that fight because Mackenzie Dern is never in a boring fight. She's going to be looking for the submission the whole time.
Absolutely agree. A fantastic main event. Mackenzie does it, and Yang Xiaonan, obviously, very, very credible fighter. Only lost in recent years, Carla Esparza, off the top of my head. And obviously, Mackenzie Dern only lost in recent years, off the top of my head. Maybe, slipped my mind. Amanda Ribas. So there we go.
And who was it? Marina Rodriguez beat both women within the past year.
Yeah. So a very good fight, a very crucial one at the top of the division. So we'll see what happens. So make sure you tune in next week where we talk about Mackenzie Dern versus Yang Xiaonan. A very good one to talk about. Make sure you catch us next week, Tuesday, 6:15 British Summer Time and 12:15 Central Time. All going to plan. Hopefully it happens next week. So let's see what happens next week. See you all next week. A very good bye from me.